All right. Welcome to another episode of Weirdinary. I'm your host, BradQuan, and today we have a very, very special guest. He is an attorney, having served as an assistant public defender in Montgomery County.
Fact.
An officer in the U.S. Army JAG Corps, practicing military law and defending sexual assault victims. An environmental and land use attorney with Young & Sommer LLC. He is an Army veteran, having attained the rank of captain and serving with the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Liberty. He is the founder of New Scotland Spirits, owning the tasting room on Lark Street, contributing to the revival of the area. He is a former party unaffiliated candidate for the Albany Common Council president. He is an opinion columnist, authoring So Swears the New Scot for the Altamont Enterprise. One of his major essays, The Albany Plan, lays out the 6 principles he believes should guide the city's future, forming the recipe, which is an acronym for rehabilitation, education, civic services, innovation, preservation, and empathy. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Jesse Sommer. However, you may know him as the Sheriff of Lark Street. Brother, how the fuck are you?
Man, you've done your due diligence.
Fucking right, man.
Good Lord. Wow.
Listen,
yeah.
Listen, we don't fuck around with people's names.
This is a guy who clearly knows how to use a Google search. Holy shit. That was interesting.
I take this shit seriously.
Evidently.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not fucking around, you know what I mean? One thing we are not gonna be doing is standing around with our dicks in our fucking hands, all right? We're moving and shaking.
Golly, that was wow. You nailed it.
Thank you.
You nailed it.
You know what I'm saying, man? And let me just say, I said it before, I'm gonna say it again, dude. It is an absolute honor to be in your presence, brother, to have you be willing to sit down with us here today, man. I'm blessed, bro.
Well, first of all, that's a almost needlessly gracious sentiment, because I'm going to use a parable about the Christian faith. The person more powerful in disseminating Jesus's method, his message, his principles, was the guy's biographer. And the person who was even more powerful than the biographer was the publisher. Which is to say that, like, I am far more privileged to be in your presence because you're the person with the editorial control. So to the extent that I'm notorious and I get my message out, it's because you guys decide in your cherry picking or the way you lay it out, you get to decide and then deconstruct what the Sheriff of Lark Street is. So I'm grateful to you guys for giving me the time to, get on my soapbox, and then you'll do with the message what you will.
Absolutely. And on this platform, I think it's imperative to peel through the layers of people to expose the gems that thrive within them, because I believe that the gems that exist in you can help inspire others. You know what I mean? And sometimes, dude, it's just even in, it helps people to know, you know what I mean, that there's somebody else that can relate to the struggles that they may be going through that they think they're alone in. You know what I mean? It's all about connection. You know what I'm saying? It's all about humanity, and I say that to say I'm very eager to dive into your story, and I just want to start from the beginning, and then we're gonna bring it to the present, and we're really gonna tap into who you are.
Awesome.
All right.
I'm down.
So that said, brother man, my first question to you: when you think back to your childhood, what experience shaped the person you became more than any other?
Vegetarianism. I was raised vegetarian. And you have to understand that the only moral principle, I was raised by a Unitarian and by a Jew. I'm both half Jewish, half Christian, to the extent that, your ideologies define your outlook. I had a very specific lens. Our morality was filtered through the lens of the treatment of sentient beings. And you have to understand that what that then creates is this dissonance with the larger framework of my community. What I mean by that is, at a very early age, I was forced to confront the fact that, quote unquote, it's all bullshit. That all of the morality to which I was exposed, the teachings that I would encounter both in school, at friends' houses, whatever, it was always with this slight sense of, yeah, but like, all these people who are killing animals and eating them are evil. I don't know that necessarily that was a healthy perspective, but it was the perspective in my household. Animals were friends. They were equal to human beings in terms of the dignity they should be afforded. And the way my parents enforced this commitment to vegetarianism was by not holding back regarding their... displeasure is not even nearly a strong enough word. I'm going to say their judgment about other people who didn't, quote unquote, get it, who didn't understand that the cultivation and consumption of other earthlings, as they called it, that was the principal evil that existed, and it existed everywhere. My closest friends eat meat. Mm-hmm. So there was always that one level of remove, you know what I mean? It almost kind of enforced this like cultish adherence to the family ideology, which was, you know, animals are our equal. And that created a little bit of an alienation with the fabric of the community around me, for sure. So that was by far the most singularly critical element in developing both my early worldview and my sense of self.
Wow. Okay. You know, it's funny because, you know, I'm a pescatarian now. I was a vegetarian for a while, and it's like the consumption of meat, I don't think is a problem in itself. I mean, it's a basic sense of survival. It's been happening since the beginning of time, whatever. It's the mass production.
That's it. Remember, I just want to point out, it was the cultivation and consumption of sentient life. I don't think my parents would have had a problem with the manner by which human beings became human beings.
Yes.
By cooking flesh,
Yes.
eating the protein.
Yes.
It was truly the way in which factory farming
Yes.
had created this species hierarchy. I'm going to be honest with you that, like, against my better judgment and despite so many efforts, I eat meat. I try not to. It just happens. It's delicious. I have very little willpower. You know, I feel awful about it. My mother passed away last year, and I really, like, tried to rededicate myself to vegetarianism, and it lasted maybe 2 weeks. You know, I hope to be vegetarian one day again, and that means that I need to prioritize it. It's just at this point, when you've tasted meat, it becomes a very difficult sacrifice, as embarrassing as that is for me. I mean, I'm telling you that I'm not making any excuses. I'm a douchebag. I know what factory farming entails. Yeah. I know I should not be a part of the system. I do my best. I eat meat as little as I eat more meat than I should. I'm trying not to eat as much meat as I could.
Fair enough. I mean, listen, all we can do is just be honest with ourselves, be self-aware, and just try to take what we consider our bad habits to be. Let's say you're at an 8. Bring it from an 8 to about a 4.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
You're also enabling me, but nonetheless, I do appreciate it.
Listen, you know, one thing an uncle of mine told me, he said, listen, you can't change people. You know what I mean? You're gonna be out here, you're gonna drive yourself crazy trying to preach a message to change people. And even though that's a nigga that need changing, he had a point there. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? It is what it is. I mean, nobody's perfect. I mean, hell, the reality of life is we're all fucking hypocrites. We're all judgmental. We're all this, we're all that. I mean, a lot of these philosophers that I love dearly are fucking hypocrites. You know what I mean? It's a part of life.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it's just about being self-aware and holding yourself accountable and doing your best to be better with what you know.
I think a big question with which I struggle, and I'm acknowledging that I don't have an answer for it, though I somewhat think I probably deep down do, is who's worse? The inadvertent hypocrite who know not what he does, or the person who's seen all the slaughterhouse videos and who understands how the system works, but who still can't say no to a burger. You know, I would, because I know what the system entails, I'd like to, at some point, really try to engage the morality with which my parents imbued me.
Absolutely.
And it just is not, I'm just not there yet.
Listen, life is about progress, not perfection.
Thank you.
I learned that in AA.
I really appreciate you're giving me quite a bit of like existential cover right now. I don't deserve it, but it does feel good.
Listen, it's important that it's important that we have these conversations, man. I mean, listen, I beat myself up all the time. I mean, I feel bad about eating fish.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? I went
Yeah.
fishing. I went fishing for the first time in the summer of 2021.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll never forget, bro. I brought the fish up. The fucking hook went through its eye.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and dude, it was in my hand and it shit in my hand. I'm like, this is fucking awful. I threw it back, but I'm like, this fish isn't gonna be the same. It's not gonna. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck am I doing? You know? I'm like, I just ate fish the other day. My uncle made some whiting fish. It was beautifully breaded, full of flavor. Oh my God. It was delicious. But then I couldn't help but to think about that fish after I fucked the fish up, after I ate it. But
This podcast turned traumatizing very quickly.
100%. 100%.
Oh my
you know
God.
what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
But listen, God damn it, we're all philosophers. As long as we all think about how to better live, all right? Conversations like this are necessary, okay? We all think about how to better live. We're all philosophers, and within philosophy, trauma exists. So, God damn it, you know what I mean? We're just coursing through consciousness, brother.
well said.
You know
really well said.
You know? But I love the fact that you were raised in that. It speaks a lot about your values and the values of your parents.
Oh, sure.
I think
totally.
I think that's a wonderful thing. I mean, can you bring me into Jesse as a child? I mean, like, how was your relationship with your parents? Did you have any siblings? Like,
Yeah, 3 younger sisters. And let me tell you something. If you're going to come back again, you want to be the eldest of 4 kids where you're the only boy, so you don't have to get compared to anything, right? I was a horrendous athlete. I never had a younger brother who could show me up, right? I had 3 younger sisters, all of whom were great athletes, but because, just cultural sexism, their athletic performance was somewhat denigrated, right? Like, the world looked down on 2 of my sisters because they played hockey. And so what's interesting is that when you're the oldest boy and you're the first, your mom loves you the best, let's be real, and you have 3 doting sisters that look up to you. Now, I was a dickhead to all of them, but that family dynamic is second to none. I also think it's notable that I grew up in New Scotland on a massive parcel of property. My dad was from North Jersey. My mom's family was from the Boston area. They fled to create their own little communism, bought a bunch of cheap land in what was then a very rural New Scotland, and I grew up on that.
Speaking my language, I love that.
It truly is wonderful. I mean, I say people again, if you're gonna be reincarnated, and to the extent that you have your pick of the time-space continuum's many different offerings, what you want to do is come back white, male, financially secure in upstate New York in the 80s, so that you can catch the 1990s adolescence. Wow. I hit privilege on every single level. I even, because my dad was Jewish, I had the mantle of I was kind of one of the few minorities in my town. And that was a very interesting kind of awareness, but without the type of minority distinction that would result in any real detriment.
Understood.
So I really did. Like I am very aware, and I've been very vocal about this, that like I I don't take personal credit for a lot of different achievements, because I did just dude, it's like I threaded the needle in getting selected from the cosmos to inhabit this time and space. I fucking nailed it. Honestly, I really did. I mean, you folks would want to be me. It was pretty great.
I love the confidence. I love this shit, man. Oh my God.
I'm telling you, it was a good time. It was a good place to grow up.
Hell
it was
yeah.
a good time to grow up. I think even now, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they don't understand what 90s America was like. You know, we had budget surpluses annually and federally. Like, we were killing it. It was just post Cold War. Like, it was just a really great time to be a kid.
Fair enough. That said, as a kid, when did you first realize the world wasn't as simple or as fair as you thought it was?
Yep, great. So this is a really interesting question, and I actually have that moment. I was 5 years old when I discovered my parents smoked marijuana. In my house... Five.
Okay.
I was 5. Because hey, mom and dad, use some discretion. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, children are very aware. And they had, from a very early age, they had demonized cigarettes. If you smoke cigarettes, which I'm going to be honest, is my favorite thing about life. I try to stay away from them, but every now and then I'll smoke a cigarette, and you really, like, that's when you really can get into yourself and understand how wonderful existence is, smoking a cigarette.
That is so interesting. I never was able to get there with cigarettes. My mother smoked. I could get on John for smoking. I mean, dude, to each their own. I never understood what the appeal was.
You know, I'm not even going to proselytize, because first of all, they're horrendous. They are bad for you. But like you mentioned John, every now and then when I bummed a cigarette from John, that 5 minutes where that's what we're doing, there's no fraternity like that. It truly is. But point was, my parents, knowing how powerfully amazing cigarettes are, demonized them. If you smoked cigarettes, you were low class, you were uneducated, and you were getting kicked out of the house. I'm telling you, I was exposed to that perspective as early as I remember. And we also were not, I mean, it's funny that I now own a liquor company. Alcohol, bad. The one thing that they were okay about, or rather it didn't enter the conversation, was marijuana. I didn't know what it was until one day I saw what I was pretty confident was my dad smoking a cigarette. And I called my parents out on it. And my mom sat me down and said, "We need to tell you the family secret. There's this thing called marijuana, and we utilize it." Explained to me that when I went to school, I couldn't talk about it. And that it was because the world was misinformed, was abiding by a set of laws that were wrong. And what's interesting is that there was a culture that, remember, my parents being big hippies, they were very much like, the government is not your friend. They had drafted their friends for the Vietnam War, a complete misadventure, totally immoral, yada, yada, yada. I think what they didn't appreciate, that I now appreciate, is from a very early age, I was aware, one, that I had to hide aspects of the family from broader society, and two, that what we knew as laws were total artifices of humanity. There was no moral justification for law. That law was at best a way to order society for the benefit of a very specific few, and that it was in opposition to my family, that my parents could be hurt by the law. And you have to understand that in every other respect, we were the beneficiaries of all this law and order, yada, yada, yada. My parents were very adamant about, the police are your friends. If you're ever lost, go up to a police officer. These are good people. But they also pointed out that police were the agents of bad people. And from my parents' perspective, coming out of the Vietnam era and the hippie movement, they were very ambivalent and distrusting of government, even though they really did trust all of the downstream agents of coercive governmental force.
Interesting. Because you talk about the law being a way to give order and to grant benefits to a few. I guess when you got into law as an attorney, like what was your mindset there?
Oh, very cynical.
Okay.
Very cynical. I went to law school for largely the same reason that I joined the military. I did 10 years in the Army, and in a way I tell people I joined the Army ironically, I went to law school ironically. I wanted to experience and live in the modes of power, social influence.
Okay.
Law.
Okay.
I went to law school.
Yeah.
I went to business school. I joined the military. If you understand legal structures, you understand capitalism, and you understand the use of martial force to exert political will, you've nailed the three sources of artificial power in our society. This is not the only economic structure that exists. It's the one we've elected to integrate into our existence.
100%.
Laws, this isn't the only body of laws that work. There's different legal structures all over the world, but this is the one that we utilize to govern our society. And military power, that's self-evident. I mean, since the dawn of agriculture and putting walls around the food supply and claiming land as our own, all of that exists on the other end of a martial force, which requires cultivating ranks of people willing to do the bidding of those with the most to lose. So I wanted to experience all of that so I could utilize them in furtherance of what I believe the right way of ordering society should be, my ideals. If you don't know those languages of power, you are really fucked. I mean, I really believe that. That's why I always say, if you want to survive in the world, you need a doctor, a lawyer, and an auto mechanic in the family. Otherwise, you are going to get fucked. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Church. I fucking love it. What kind of pain has quietly stayed with you throughout your life?
I won't use her name, but in 9th grade at a dance, I asked a woman whom I fancied to slow dance with me, like the hands out, rocking back and forth.
Yes, sir.
And about 30 seconds into it, she just unceremoniously turned her back on me, found someone else, and I ended up in the cafeteria alone, totally embarrassed, as one of the parental chaperones came up to me and said, "Oh, did no one want to dance with you?" That shame, I'll never forget that. Now you could say, wait, that's your lingering trauma? Yeah, I told you my life was pretty fucking dope.
Nah, dude, it's deep, bro. Absolutely.
It's dope. I mean, the thing is that when you don't have any further trauma, like the trauma you did experience, as insignificant as it might seem to like your average person, that's my trauma, I'm sure I probably could have had my overall perspective on the universe shifted if I had encountered additional trauma. But honestly, man, like that's what I'm saying. What pain has stayed with me, I'm telling you, I've lived a blessed life. The worst thing that happened is that I was embarrassed at one time a very long time ago, and I still remember that to this day.
Was that your first taste of rejection?
It's the first one I remember. Mm-hmm. I also was kind of like a late bloomer, in that girls were important to me very early on, but it didn't occur to me, I think, to create an identity off of whether or not I was desired by people until a little later. Adolescence hit me later. At that point, when it was like my fascination with girls then also was like, well, wait a second, what does that mean about me if I'm not desired? That took a little longer, but once it hit, then yeah, that I think was probably my first taste of rejection, and it was formative.
100%.
I don't think, the funny thing is, I don't think the confidence that I have now is born in relation to being able to study a bunch of different things external to me. Okay. Before then, there was no external to me. It was just me, right? Like I was, it was, so what didn't occur to me to be confident or not. It was just that like, everything always seems to go my way.
Yeah.
And then when it didn't, it was like, I didn't have language for it. And I internalized it, kept it private, was like, that sucks. And it immediately set me on the path to like, okay, I ended up joining the wrestling team, not for distinction and the success on the mats. Remember, I sucked as an athlete.
Fair enough.
But it didn't matter to me what my performance was on the mats. It mattered what my performance was in the social scene. And joining the wrestling team was a way to turbocharge as a small person. I was a little kid. Short, skinny. That was a way to create this kind of sense of like masculinity or whatever. That's the extent of really like what I can pinpoint as trauma as a young kid. I was very lucky. There weren't any deaths in the family. I'm telling you, I had to really search. I had to really search for some sense of, what pain I've carried with me, and I'm honestly grateful for it. Like I've, if anything, the most pain I've encountered has been through like the empathetic awareness of what other people are enduring, because for me, it's mostly academic. I read about other people's pain, but I haven't really had to deal with that until like I lost my mom or, those things. And that was way later in life. I mean, basically middle age,
First, where did you go to high school?
Voorheesville Central School District, represent K through 12.
Okay.
That's another thing that's like, talk about being blessed. I mean, you just, it sucks that everyone knows all your business, but like I was raised, I had dozens of parents. My school teachers loved us. I was such a bad kid, like I was such a troublemaker and a class clown, but I got good grades because trust me, if you came home with anything less than an A, I'm not kidding, you were shamed at the dinner table. So I got good grades. I did the extra credit, and the school looked out for me. My high school year, my claim to fame is that I perpetrated a one-person senior prank wherein I dismissed school by forging my principal's signature on official school letterhead that tricked people into thinking we were getting a half day. And I ended up getting suspended from school for 2 weeks, but ultimately, in what is by far the coolest thing I will ever do, the community took care of me. They didn't expel me. They didn't even tell the college that I'd just gotten accepted to about it. Like being in the school system, knowing everybody, people feeling invested in your future. It's why community cannot be beat in those little rural towns.
Tell me, so where'd you go to college?
Wesleyan University in Connecticut.
Okay, fair enough. And law school, was it Albany Law or?
American University in D.C. I did a JD MBA program in our nation's capital during the Obama era, which is like, if you're going to be in one city at one point in time, I mean, there was a real sense of camaraderie and magic in that city during those years, and I was there for it. It was good.
Fair enough. I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier about developing masculinity. What is that? How does that mean to you?
Masculinity?
Yeah. What does being a man mean to Jesse Summer?
I probably look at that as a synonym for strength in a bunch of different ways. Physical. I don't even want to say. I actually don't think it mental. I think it just, there's a certain resilience in responding to challenge that I associate with a specific type of masculinity that can be distilled into a code, which is, look, as the statistics are bearing out, for reasons that I'm not even going to identify because there's probably lots of different scholarship on it. But I can tell you that in this society, women are achieving in the aggregate more than our men, both professionally, academically. They do seem to be better equipped for this type of society. And I think their performance proves that. I mean, John can tell you in our company, all the leadership positions have very quickly been occupied by women. And there is just an overall kind of cultural sensibility that I think equips what we define as femininity as being better equipped for society as it exists now. But I still think that there's room for men to be quote unquote men. That means, responding to threats and making sure that you're prepared to be responsive to threats, whether that's physical threats, economic threats. It's like I like perceiving myself as being a soldier on the battlefield, and I perceive there to be battlefields everywhere. And, it's like, I know this has fallen out of favor, but I don't think, to the extent practicable, I don't think men should cry. I think they should, provide a certain fortitude that can provide a space for example, a more feminine sensibility to achieve that will take care of the perimeter. You lead society. You know what I mean? That's how I perceive it. You also have to understand, in my family, my mom was kind of head of household in a way. Okay. My dad was the economic engine. My dad created the space for all of us to achieve. But my mom was like the guiding light. She was the intellectual force. You can read about my mom online. Her obituary, which I wrote, details the degree to which she was just an incomparable force. And so I grew up in a household where, mom was the authority by virtue of merit. She was just smarter, My dad was brilliant, but next to my mom, it was like, she graduated summa cum laude from Harvard University, was first in her class at Cornell Vet School. I could lead, but without even identifying all her talents, just her credentials were unassailable. So it was kind of like, you defer to mom. And that was a cool way for me to perceive masculinity of dude stands out front. I think if you're a man, you should be walking on the outside of the street towards the curb if you're with a significant other. And by the way, I'll even point this out. I'm not even going to attribute that just to the biological definition of maleness. It's in a relationship with two women or two men, it's who's going to occupy the position of the person that opens the passenger side door for his or her significant other. That's what it means to be a man.
That's what's up, brother. Okay. What part of yourself have you spent the most time trying to outgrow?
Probably related to what I was just referencing when it comes to what it means to be a man. I think a lack of agency. I'm kind of a diminutive person on a physical level. I think I have really tried to outgrow being disempowered. It is important to me, in my sense, that if I walk into a room that, I'm toe-to-toe with anyone in there on a credentials level, on an intellectual platform, on a physical platform. Of course, that's not possible in every context, but it is to what I aspire, right? It is why it's important for me to be physically strong and fit, why it's important for me to pursue intellectual development. I'll say, it may not be possible in every context, but you better believe I don't ever want to be somebody's bitch. I don't ever want to be in a position where, because of your financial resources or your physical capabilities, I am on the weaker end of that dynamic. And there's probably a lot of psychological explication for why that is, but it is something that I have always kind of been aware of, these are things that I have to address. I have to engage, like read a lot, even though I haven't read a book in a decade, like, be physically fit, try to make money, put myself in a situation where I'm not going to let external forces dictate what my life is.
Bro, I just felt that one. That shit hit, man. God damn. Fuck being somebody's bitch.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean?
And it happens more and more from faceless forces, dude. Like, the thing that sucks about this economy and our legal apparatus is you got all these laws on the books that were made by men and women who were responding to some stimulus, and it still defines our existence a century later. And like the invisible hand of capitalism. I honestly think capitalism itself as an ideology is a virus. It protects itself, like it predates, and I'm just like, fuck you,
You see, and I'm glad you brought that up, because as somebody that loves to course through philosophy, I look at capitalism often. I've been a huge criticizer of the woes of capitalism, as I feel like we all have. You know what I mean? To some degree. I've come to believe capitalism itself isn't inherently evil, but human nature, what we bring to the table, like the institutions, you know what I mean, the greed, you know what I mean, not knowing when enough is enough, like things like that bring evil to this force. You know what I'm saying? But what's your perception of that?
No, I think you nailed it. Capitalism is a virus because of the food that feeds it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think capitalism is better than communism. I think it's better than feudalism and mercantilism and every other ism we've tried. But I do think that, like, at the end of the day, the only language that matters is power. And the problem with capitalism is that it empowers people who I do not think should have the power. It empowers fucking losers who, because they went to Wall Street and put themselves in front of the barreling mass of money that comes to them, they're shaving off a little bit, and then they're going to use that to exert control over me. Nuh-uh. I started this company. We were in the New Scotland Spirits tasting room. In many respects, I started this company because I wanted to harness the power of grain cultivation, not because I wanted to make alcohol. I don't even drink that much. I wanted to do it because I wanted to save farmland. I didn't want someone to steal my town. And so, yes, you better believe it. Do I want to exert my sense of what the town should be beyond the borders of the property that I own? Yup. You better believe it. Do I want to declare dominion over someone else's property so that they don't put a big box department store and pave over a bunch of property I don't own? Yup, that's power. I want my sense of the world to be preeminent. And I happen to believe that if my sense of the world would be preeminent, more people would benefit from it. But I'm still going to admit to you that I still want my sense of the world to dictate. And the problem with capitalism is that it's a faceless entity that's dictating our reality. You can't stop it. Too many people are invested in it. I'm a beneficiary of it. I want to be clear about this. But that doesn't mean that I can't indict all of these invisible forces that define the prison of our existence. If that sounds unduly cynical, keep in mind that it's like, because I'm such a beneficiary of it, I'm able to see a 30,000-foot view of the people that aren't. I'm like, holy shit, it's good to not be you. I'm a public defender out in Montgomery County. Let me tell you something. I get detailed to the people who don't have money to hire an attorney. Let me tell you, bro, this is not a society in which you don't want to have money. And it's a zero-sum game. No matter what people tell you about how it's a rising tide lifts all boats. No, it's not. No, if you have money, then I don't. If you have more money to bid on the house that I want, then that house price is going to rise and I won't be able to get it. That's how the system is set up right now, and I don't want to give up my house. So I'm also invested in the perpetuation of this sinister system, which is why the system itself self-perpetuates, because I'm invested in its ongoing predation on people, right? Better than communism. I could talk to you about why communism doesn't fucking work. And I would have been, dude, my personality, I would have been murdered early on. At least capitalism gave me a way to, if you can start cobbling together resources and you can, entice people to believe what you believe, you can kind of put together a resource base to crawl your way towards the top, right? Mm-hmm. Communism, it's just all corrupt. But I will say that I view the role of government to, at the very least, temper the excesses of the excesses of capitalism. Mm-hmm. And in so doing, try to give people ladders they might not otherwise have.
Okay. I wanted to ask, the reason why I fuck with communism in its traditional sense because I like the idea of a classless society. Do you believe that hierarchy is necessary for society to prosper?
I believe hierarchy is necessary for me to prosper.
Okay.
I don't reach the question of, do I think that society itself should prosper, because you've begged the question. It's a tautology. I don't know that society should prosper. I think that there are a lot of ideas out there that should be squashed. Not because they're wrong, but because they're counter to my interest. And yes, I believe that me and mine, my community, my family for sure, my friends, that, that's who I'm going to protect. I've said this several times before, but I'll kind of repeat it here. In my limited sense of the world, before I'm a human, I'm an American. Mm-hmm. Before I'm an American, I'm a New Yorker. Before I'm a New Yorker, I'm an Albanite. Before I'm an Albanite, I'm a New Scot. Mm-hmm. And before I'm a New Scot, I'm a member of my immediate nuclear family. That's, those concentric circles are important. You better believe. Don't ever listen to me. If I ever say that I'm not looking out for my sister's number one, I'm lying to you. My sisters are my preeminent concern. More so even than their kids, like my nieces and nephews. It's like, nah, dude, I'm bloodbound to my sisters. Then after that, it's like the members of my company. Like I'll go to bat for the people that are loyal to me in this project that we have. And the members of the town of New Scotland. And then after that, Albany County. And then after that, the Capital District. And then after that, maybe New York. After New York, dude, like the idea of what it means to be American, there's a lot about America that I'm not standing on those precepts. There's a lot about it that I do, right? There's a lot about America about which I'm very proud, but there's so much about it I can't claim. So
let me ask you a question, man.
Yeah.
This is something that I like to bring up because I like to get people's opinions on it. Do you believe that our country is in or is on the road to fascism?
Sure. It's kind of an irrelevant question because I think what you're trying to get at is, do you believe that there is a coercive, singular, totalitarian power that is or will someday control society? And I would say, dude, we're fucking here.
Yeah,
and we've been here for a long time, and I don't know that we've ever not been. I mean, fascism is a political philosophy that talks about preeminence of the nation and everything in the furtherance of that nation, and maybe even an ethnic. You'd have to look up the definition, but I would just point out, our society was set up for propertied men, white men. Yeah. To be making all the decisions. And as you started expanding it and bringing more people into it, the original sin of let's have an insular group of people determining what the direction of the country should be, all that's done is bring more people into it, but it's filtered towards the top. So now we have a society where it's like, yeah, it's totally free and democratic if you've got a lot of money. So like, it doesn't matter. I mean, let's say that you ended up with an actual fascist. All you're doing is just changing the language by which power is being dispersed to the population that exists beneath it. That's why I go back to, at all times, I need to maximize my own personal power and agency, because I am constantly pushing against the faceless power that comes to me from this charade that we call democracy, or the overt demonstration of such in the type of fascism that wiped out a lot of my father's family in the Holocaust. You know?
Fair enough.
Get your gun, everybody.
It's imperative for me to ask that question, I feel, because I just want to see where, I just want to gauge people's perception of reality, because it can vary. You know, it's a spectrum, you know, we live on, essentially, and I just want to get a deep understanding of where people lie. I like your answer because I agree. We've been in this shit for a while.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, dude, listen, here's the interesting thing. Your life, given my background, as doors are always open for me. So given that background, I would not be able to survive if I woke up and I was a black man.
I would not have been
able to do it. I would not have been able to do it. I remember in law school, I had a friend who, when he would come over, I lived in the basement apartment of this house, that we entered the front door. He would wait for cars to not be around because he didn't want to be seen walking up to the front door because someone would call the cops that a black guy was in this part of DC, Spring Valley, knocking on a front door. I was like, what are you talking about? Or like when we would drive places, you know, it was me, Randy, Josiah, Talon, Roth. I was the only white dude, and I would always have to fucking drive. Be like, well, yeah, because like we don't want to get pulled over. That shit hurt my heart. Like, that shit was like, okay, whether that's true or not, the fact that that's what they think, I could not deal. Dude, even just thinking about it, like I could not deal with that degree of subjugation. As you can tell, like I would not be able to. The bitterness that I would feel, and felt for them, and I'd be like, "Are you guys fucking kidding me? Like, don't you want to rage?" And they'd be like, "No, no." That's why oftentimes when you'll see like on TikTok, you'll see someone at a traffic stop acting a fool. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what are you fucking doing? If the cops get up behind you because you've been speeding, dome light on, hazard lights on, pull over to the side, windows down, glove box open, you already got your registration, your license, and you say, "Sorry, sir." But I can see where you've been on a routine basis on the receiving end of harassment for things that you didn't do. I can see why there would be a snap. How dare this coercive force come down on me again? I'd lose it. I would be the angry black man that so many people try to avoid being perceived as. Mm-hmm. But that's because I come from privilege. And, remember, my biggest trauma is getting rejected at a ninth grade dance. It's like, yeah, that's what life is like when you have privilege. I'm very cognizant of it. And I can't even imagine what obnoxiously, I hate this phrase, but obnoxiously they call microaggressions. I can't even imagine what it is that you have dealt with. I won't say deal with on a daily basis, but at some point I know you've dealt with it. Yeah, I do not have the constitution to be able to handle that shit.
Definitely not to the extent of others, but I have had my fair share, and it took a while for me to really understand the weight of what it means to be a black man in America. And I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I wanted to ask you about white privilege, because a lot of people aren't comfortable with that topic. They're like, this doesn't exist. I mean,
ask someone, do you want to be a black guy? That's how you know. I mean, this is why, by the way, I'm so pissed off at liberals. This is why I refuse to be a part of this progressive horse shit. Mm-hmm. You're coming at me talking about, honoring and respecting people's preferred pronouns, And yet here in the city of Albany, we have the second widest disparity between black and white home ownership, legacy of redlining. Go fuck yourself. Stop. These retail, cosmopolitan identity concerns, go deal with the fact that we are in a segregated city. Widest disparity between black and white home ownership on the East Coast, second only to Minneapolis in the nation. Minneapolis. These are not cities in the South. I spent a lot of time in the South, dude. The racism is overt here to me because people don't acknowledge it. And I'll tell you, that's why I'm like, fuck the Democrats, fuck liberals, because you guys aren't actually doing the work. You're not doing the work. You've completely abandoned you've completely abandoned the actual struggle because you have this misplaced sense that we've moved beyond it. Dude, fuck that. You mentioned earlier that I ran a party unaffiliated campaign. Yeah, no shit. I'm gonna run for office every fucking time. It's always gonna be party unaffiliated. Ergo, I'll never get elected. Fucking good. I don't want to be co-opted by a government apparatus that turns a blind eye onto the real issues and just engages in rhetoric. Go fuck yourselves.
Let me ask you, so obviously, so you're somebody that's aware, you know what I mean? You know that you do and you have always benefited from white privilege. It's just a fact. How do you use that to benefit those who are marginalized?
Well, again, you're begging the question, right? Like, I don't know that benefiting other people is an innate goal.
Okay.
It happens to be for me.
Yes.
Because of my mom. But let's put it this way. I sleep really well at night, dude. Like, there's lots of injustice in the world. And I sleep really well at night in a bed that's fucking dope. It's comfortable. I don't get torn up about the fact that there's injustice. I will say that just the way I was raised, it's like, if you're not combating the injustice, why are you here? You know what I mean? So like you can see a lot of my company is geared towards advocacy. But I also use my advocacy to benefit me commercially. I mean, me acting a fool online as the Sheriff of Lark Street has been incredibly beneficial to my sales proposition. I have figured out how to thread that needle to use the company to enhance my advocacy to enhance my company's bottom line. But remember, that's just because it's like, my mom's dead, so fucking, now I get to behave in ways that she would not have approved of, but I'm still using it towards furthering her mission. I mean, if you read about my mom, dude, you'll see. Like, we're put on this planet. We're put on this planet to fucking rage, and like in this case, it's rage on behalf of the people who can't. Absolutely. And trust me, because of where I am, I have all of the tools. I can rage. So now I just need to figure out, like, on whose behalf am I raging? I don't want to pander. I think all these fucking people out here who stand up, these politicians, and they grandstand and they say we're going to help. No, you're fucking not. There's an easy way to. Great example is we want to give people housing, so we're going to do vouchers. We're going to give people money so that they can afford the rent. The rent? What happened to 40 acres and a mule? What happened to giving people deeds? What happened to giving people property? So it's an intergenerationally transferable asset from which their bloodline can benefit. What happened to giving people ownership? It's like, guess what? In this society, we're not all the Native Americans for whom property ownership is an alien concept. Property means something here. So why are we using taxpayer dollars to pad the pockets of landlords, of people who aren't going to make the investments in their properties because it doesn't benefit them? They're getting the money fucking anyway. And so because they don't make the upgrades in their house, it fucks with my home values because my neighborhood starts looking blighted. That's what I'm saying, dude. Listen, at least I'm honest about the fact that I am self-interested in everything I do. And in and aggressively advancing my self-interest, I happen to believe that more people will benefit because my self-interest is a cloak by which I can expand the mantle of privilege to other people. Because I know that from where does my power derive? People. Mm-hmm. The followers, the people whom I employ, the people who I protect. I believe that my umbrella is going to, at the end of the day, grant greater agency to everyone in my orbit. Why do I get that privilege? Because I was born into privilege. So, it's like, I don't want a yacht. I want a fucking neighborhood where everyone owns their property, and I can walk down that thing and people are like, "What up, Jesse? Thanks for helping me out." That's what I want. I don't have kids. I don't have a legacy here. My legacy are the kids from other people who only have a shot because of the things that I did. Mm. And do I want fucking notoriety and honor and celebration and accolades for as long as I'm alive? After that, doesn't matter. I don't need my legacy to expand beyond my existence. But while I'm here, you better believe it. I'm looking for accolades. That's how you get girls. You better believe it.
I mean, yeah, dude, success is attractive. You got
Fuck yeah.
Right. Can you remember a moment when your understanding of yourself fundamentally changed?
Yeah. Paratrooper, bro. Paratrooper. Jumping out of a plane. There was a guy named Captain Dave Talbot who I was once, I was talking about, like, fuck, man, like, I'm just, what happens if your parachute doesn't open? And he looked at me and goes, if it's your time, it's your time. I'll never forget that.
I actually live by that logic.
If it's your time, it's your time. You'll see me on social media. I'll put myself in situations where people are like, dude, you're going to get shot.
It's my time, it's my time.
It's my time, it's my time. I mean, it's like, if you see me driving down 787, I-90 or I-87, you know that at any point I could also not be here.
Yeah.
Like anything could take you out. For me, if it's someone's gonna shoot you, at least, with all these cameras around, at least that's gonna be some pretty dope content for someone to scroll through. You know what I mean? Like,
positive and every negative.
It's not nihilistic. It's truth. If it's your time, it's your time. And so jumping out of an airplane multiple times fried that fear complex. My body just couldn't come up with the cortisol and endorphins by the 65th time that it did the first time. And that really did change me. I also then got cancer and...
you had cancer?
Yeah. Yep.
Shit.
I had 36 months to live up until I went to Sloan Kettering. That was my prognosis. I had metastatic melanoma. It was in my lymphatic system. Immunotherapy, as delivered by Sloan Kettering, which is a technology not available where I first went up here, saved my life. Let me tell you something, bro. I walked out of that first recognition that my melanoma had gone metastatic, being like, all right, great life, storybook life. It was only when I survived and was told I would be around for a little bit that I was like, fuck, I've taken money from a lot of investors in this business. I gotta fucking pay back now. Like, shit, I mean, it is an interesting thing of when you're presented with finality, you look mortality in the face, that's where you can kind of be like, shit, like I did a lot, like I had a fucking great life. Again, I had the life that anyone would want. And now, if anything, the larger issue is like, well, shit, what am I going to do with this extra time that I shouldn't have had? It's like, I'm living in Final Destination mode. I wasn't supposed to be here. The fact that I am, it's like, all right, well, I guess I better make this company work so I can give my investors their money back. And in the meantime, I guess I'm going to try to, like, make shit a little bit better, kind of. I mean, honestly, that is, when you don't have kids, I think, and I don't ever want kids. I'm surgically equipped to not have kids.
Okay.
I think your sense of, like, who is going to be the beneficiary of your time and energy has to be a little bit more broad. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so I end up here, it's, like most recently, it's my battle for Lark Street to restore this neighborhood from what I believe is a depths to which it has fallen as a result of wholly misapplied though well-intentioned, progressivist policies.
Okay. And I definitely want to tap into that. Let me ask you this. What belief about people has been the hardest for you to hold on to as you've gotten older?
I do not believe people are fundamentally good anymore. My parents, despite their cynicism, always believed that people were good. I now believe that people are fundamentally well-intentioned. But who actually puts that into practice? I'm not necessarily saying I do, man, but it's like, yeah, I think everyone thinks that they do the right thing. Everyone thinks that they will make the sacrifice in furtherance of the broader good. I don't know that people do. The crazy thing is, there's that exercise of like, I eat meat. If the world goes the way it should, if the world is moral, then someday, years in the future, people will look back at this era and say, like, you were creating life, torturing it, and then killing it for your pleasure. The same way, it's like, you better believe it, bro. 200 years ago, without adequate teaching, if I didn't have my mom, I probably would have owned fucking slaves. Or I would have been a slave owned by someone else who nonetheless went to church on Sundays. The real question is, are you going to look at what is right, what you know to be true deep down, and are you going to put it into practice? And I just don't think a lot of people do. I really don't. I believe people are well-intentioned, but I just don't believe there's a fundamental goodness there. I'll grant you that it's probably a fundamental blank slate. Still, kind of like, okay, fine, distinction without a difference. If you say it, but you don't do it, if anything, you're worse.
That's a fact.
I love people that own what dicks they are. Trust me, dude. I think if you're, I'd rather hang out with someone who authentically hates me than someone who's subversive about it.
Fair enough.
It's very hard when you actually, when you hang out with someone, you realize there's not all that much to hate. And that's why it's like, no, go out of your way to care for the people you haven't sat down with, you haven't met. What sacrifice do you make? And again, don't give me any credit. I make very, very few sacrifices. That's why I say I count myself among that. Like I do some things. I'm not nearly doing as much as I could be doing.
Fair enough. So, let me ask you, because you're clearly a polarizing figure. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the uniqueness, the beauty of you thrives. You know what I mean? What misunderstanding about you has followed you for the longest?
First of all, that question is interesting because it requires me to potentially misunderstand the people who misunderstand me, which is funny. But taking that question kind of as it's intended, I think probably it's that there's a lot more tongue-in-cheek to what I say. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
If you look at my social media, I say straight up, if you look at the page, it's satire. It says satire/parody. I think a lot of it's performance art. I perceive myself to be a social commentator, a provocateur. So it's like I'm using this exaggerated caricature of a person that I find to be hilarious to advance a message. And I think people who aren't in on the joke can get really angry. And it's like, good, because rage is how I get my message out. It's kind of like when people talk shit about me on Reddit, that's how everyone else finds out about me. I have not been particularly good at amplifying my message organically. It's the people that hate me who say, look at what this fucking guy is saying, and they pass around the media. That's how I've gotten on people's radar. Like, I use rage bait to get a message out, but, it's the people who understand what I'm doing who can get to be a part of the show. People who are going to be immediately turned off by me will never get to this part of the interview. So I don't have to worry about my tactics being exposed, because anyone who's listened to the show this far, they already know this. They know what I'm doing. It's the people who don't who are going to take just the clip of the very beginning. Can you believe this motherfucker said that? They send it on, and then, you know, those interested people will get to this part and they're like, oh, I see, he's playing, you know, his character. That's probably the misunderstanding, but I like that misunderstanding. I don't want to disabuse people of that misunderstanding.
Fair enough. Because it's important that we tap into this, because there are people that view, so you record a lot of homeless and mentally ill people on your social media to bring attention to this issue, in hopes to get the attention of the higher ups to actually get off their asses and do something about it. Mm-hmm. There are people that feel like, well, he's just exploiting them for views. Like, it's like, yeah, you're bringing attention to it, like you're protesting it in a way, but what comes after the protest? You know what I mean? I've spoken to people that have had issue with that. What do you say about that?
It is exploitative. It's the point. I'm exploiting the situation. Here's where I will grant you, and this is something where I was educated on this. I've started blurring out faces. You know,
Okay.
like I will say that, like, being able to identify people who are in the throes of the condition of homelessness, that sucks. You gotta, you know, I obscure their faces. But there are people whose faces I depict. And it's those people who you pull back the curtain. Let's put it this way. Most of the people on Lark Street who are aggressively soliciting money have housing. Mm-hmm. But they're mentally ill and they're addicted to drugs. And I'll tell you something, when your brain doesn't work, either by virtue of chemical addiction or because of some sort of learning disability or mental illness, that's when the municipality needs to step in. Mm-hmm. That's when they need to provide the resources that they're not providing, and you better believe I am going to shame them into so doing. When I see a guy who's on the street lying there in the rain, you better believe I'm going to show the world that. He's in public. I'm going to expand the publicity that this person would otherwise experience just here localized to Lark Street. Why am I doing it? Because I want to show the world, here's what your liberal precepts do. Here's what your progressivism does. While you're having the debate over whether it's homeless or unhoused, this person is in the rain, on the street, potentially in the midst of a situation. Now, what are you supposed to do with that? Before I put them on blast, I walk up to that person. Do you need help? Is there somewhere that you can be? A lot of times they'll say they don't want to go to a shelter because if you look at the city mission, I would rather be homeless on the street in the rain than at the fucking city mission, which is a problem for the municipality to address. I'm adamant about the fact that I'm not pulling punches. I'm going to show the world the degree of neglect that is in the center of liberal Albany. All of you fucking people that live in Center Square with money, doctors, lawyers, lobbyists, this is your community. So don't fucking talk to me about the degree to which I'm exploiting these people. I'm showing the world that which you want to hide. I don't use their faces. Now, there are some people, like, for example, notoriously, I put a guy on my feed.
It's the guy that, like, pissed on your...
Pissed. Player. Defecated.
Yeah.
Shit all over my property. Well, here's what's up. Remember, I'm also not a pushover.
Yeah, 100%.
You better believe what is my response to a guy that walks into my property, a guy for whom I help facilitate housing,
Yes.
a guy that I have been trying to bring awareness to, that I gave a platform. Yeah, that I put a platform to. Watch my videos. And this guy comes into my property, not recognizing that it's my property, smokes crack and take a shit. Well, here's the problem, my man. Understand, I am not to be trifled with. So you better believe, what is my objective? If you won't go to rehab, if you won't stay in your house, if you insist on doing drugs, guess where I'm gonna put you? In fucking prison, where you'll get your involuntary detox. How am I gonna do it? Because I'm gonna make sure that you're arrested. And then when you're released and you don't appear to your arraignment, I'm going to make sure that the bench warrant is enforced. Then I'm going to show up to your arraignment. I'm going to get the order of protection. And then when you violate that order of protection because you're still on Lark Street, then I'm going to call the cops again. And now it's a felonious violation of a judicial order. Goodbye. And I have no problem with it. I know that system. I'm going to use that system. And for anyone who's like, oh, but this person has a problem, you should be more empathetic. You be empathetic. You do it. I'm out here. I give this person money. And what does he do with it?
Yeah.
Buys the food that he then uses for drugs.
Yeah.
Trades or buys the drugs directly.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I have tried for 18 months to get this guy to go to inpatient rehab, and he wouldn't. Why not? Because the drugs have a hold of him. Mm-hmm. So, you better believe it. If you don't want to be exploited for my own aggrandizement, don't come to Lark Street, do drugs on the street, shit on my property, have a mental health episode. Stay the fuck away. If you do want to come to Lark Street, understand I got cameras everywhere. That's my promise to people on the street.
Fair enough. So, your goal is to bring Lark Street back to its glory.
Yes.
How do you... I mean, it's a good question. What the fuck happened? Because I literally remember being younger in high school. I mean, this place was thriving over here. It felt like New York City. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll tell you what happened. We abandoned our weakest. We abandoned the people that need help. We abandoned the... Bro, we're talking about a $200 million renovation of the New York State Museum. What about... Why are we not talking... What about the people who are sleeping... literally, there's people that sleep almost every night on those stairs coming down to the tasting room. What about them? I don't care how many millions of dollars you pump into your museum. People aren't going to want to come to Albany when they have to see that. Come on. Like, we abandoned the most vulnerable people in our society. We abandoned them. That's what happened. And again, I want to emphasize this. I don't mind playing the villain. I'm not saying we should help them because they're vulnerable. I'm saying we should help the vulnerable because it's fucking with my business. Okay?
okay.
Okay? Like, I'm not, don't give me any credit. I don't want your fucking credit. Save your awards, save your praise, save your moralistic, oh, what a good guy. I prefer the hate. I prefer being the villain. Whatever gets you off your ass to help the people that need your help so that I can run my business. That's what happened. Liberal policies were exposed as being nothing but fraud. If you really want to help people, help people. Give them the support they need if they're dealing with mental illness. Give them the support they need if they're dealing with drugs, which may require involuntary commitment. Because when your brain has been hijacked by the parasite of a chemical, an addictive chemical, there's very little you're going to be able to do to restore your own agency. You know? Like, instead of talking about, well, these people's dignity should be respected and they have every right to be on the street. They have every right to be on the street? Do you think they want to be on the street? What are you talking about? I had my mom and dad to protect me. I had 50 different social safety nets to protect me. Who's going to be the mom and dad to this guy? Who's going to give this person the social safety nets? That's what we should be doing first. Then, once my business is making money and I'm paying taxes, then we can renovate our museum. Fucking losers. It's unbelievable that I have to sit here watching democracy work when I'm like, all right, well, if they're going to disempower the party unaffiliated guy, so be it. This is the existence you wrought. Well, then why don't you run with the party, Jesse, if you really care? Because I'll be co-opted instantaneously. You watch it. You watch it, you know? I'll tell you this. I respect Barack Obama and Donald Trump because they articulated two different visions and they largely stuck to it. But the forces on both sides tried to co-opt them every way, you know, every which way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but Those are two different avatars that people on either side of the spectrum, or maybe both. I mean, there's kind of a lot of overlap on some levels, but whatever. Those are, to me, those are your two fixtures of like, this is how you deploy power against the party. Obama for America took over the Democratic Party. Make America Great Again took over the Republican Party. I vastly trust individually. I vastly trust the cult leaders more than the belief systems that you get from a book.
That's a hot take. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You know, man, I was gonna save this statement for the end, but I gotta tell you, man, are you familiar with Diogenes?
No.
He's a philosopher, ancient philosopher, somebody that I love dearly. He employed satire. He was a provocateur. He was very similar to you.
Really?
Actually.
Diogenes?
Yeah, the Diogenes.
Okay.
Yeah, the original cynic.
Okay.
I'd say tap into him. I think you fuck with him.
All right.
He had
Roger that.
He had this thing that he did. He'd walk outside in broad daylight with a lantern. He's like, I'm looking for an honest man.
Sweet.
Not for nothing. I might be looking at one here. You know what I mean? You're bro. Like, I mean, because I've heard so many things about you. So many people had said this and that. Like, oh, fuck him. He's a piece of shit. He's a douchebag. He's this and that.
You wouldn't have heard about me if that wasn't what you'd heard about me.
Yeah.
What was important is that you hear about me. So I've portrayed that person so that you hear about me.
Court attention at all costs.
100%, man. I mean, listen, our current president won the White House twice. He would say thrice by getting people to hate him. By getting people to hate him, bro. I mean, that's how I've gotten the message out. You heard about me because people said all those things. Good.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
Well, shit, man.
Publicity isn't worth its salt unless it's any publicity.
Have you ever read the 48 Laws of Power?
No, but I know the gist of it, and I know that I probably don't need to.
Yeah, I don't think you do.
You know what I mean? I think that's, remember, you probably don't need to. If you're born into privilege, you don't really need to read it because you may not understand that you understand it, but I do because, you know, my parents were, you know, my mom, we read about her. All she was about, animal rights, fucking carriage horses in New York City, getting rid of the aquariums, getting rid of the zoos, getting elephants out of the circus. You know, that was the whole thing. It was always, we have power. We need to utilize it for the less fortunate. Be the voice for the voiceless. Yada yada yada.
What's your mother's name?
Holly Cheever. I'll send you the obituary, bro.
Please, dude.
She was dementia's wild, dude. Watching a brain like that get destroyed, really. That's probably my new trauma of like, no, I'm not going out like that. I'm taking a one-way ticket. Allusion to my paratrooper days. My 70th birthday, bro. Fucking disabling the altimeter, burning in from 10,000 feet up there. I'm not subjecting myself to dementia. What I watched my mom go through was, yeah. Fuck that.
And, you know, this is actually a beautiful segue into my next question. What part of yourself do you think the public rarely gets to see? And I think it's that vulnerability, which you just displayed there, was beautiful.
Oh, you fucking therapy speak. You know what? Like, fucking keep it to yourself. That shit's boring. That's the stuff that anyone who doesn't understand the multidimensionality of all human beings, that's their limitation. If you're not in on the joke, bitch, you're missing out. Anyone that thinks I'm a douchebag is 100% correct. Anyone that hates me because I'm a douchebag is missing out on the joke. Look, it's not. Everyone's got a mom. Uh-huh. Everyone will lose her. I mean, you know, it's like, here's what I know. Anyone that has a problem with any of what I'm saying isn't doing shit. Because if they were doing shit, they would see me. They'd see me at the National Union of Homeless meetings. They would see me working with the Mayor's Nightlife Advisory Council. They would see me going up to the Common Council and doing my little performance art. They would see me out here on Lark Street. Anyone who's got shit to say has shit to say because they're not in the spaces that need help. And if they were there, they would have met me. And if they'd met me, they'd know it's a joke. So, listen, whoever's had shit to say, trust me, all they're doing is watching the first few seconds of a few different clips. And I don't want them to get to know me because I'm depending on them to keep talking so much shit that elicits the curiosity that has me being, for example, most recently, I'm going to be in the Capital Region Living magazine as one of the people of the 518. You think I would have gotten there by preaching Jesus Christ shit? If Jesus came back today, he'd be murdered instantly. All of our preachers, all of the people who spit peace and love, we kill them real quick. It's the people like what I'm doing, those are the provocateurs who get a message out there. Social cynics, satirists. At least I'll be able to make it to 70.
What experience gave you the conviction to speak as boldly as you do, even when you know it'll divide people?
I wouldn't say it's a conviction. I'd say it's a insatiable need for attention.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I love this shit. Like I speak this way on some level because I need the attention. I otherwise would write. And I am a prolific writer, if I do say so myself. You can catch me in the Altamont Enterprise, but it just doesn't, you don't get the same, I'm telling you, like I'm one of those people that really does have the mental illness where negative attention is indistinguishable from positive attention. You know what I mean? Like there are some people that are like, doesn't that hurt? And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like, I think if you don't like taking the hits, yeah, you might not be the right person to get up behind a podium.
Let me ask you, Jesse. Are you a narcissist?
The way people talk about it, I think probably I don't meet the clinical definition, but in terms of self-absorption, yes. You know what I mean? Like the actual like clinical definition of narcissism, I think I probably don't, but I certainly have narcissistic tendencies.
100%. We all live on the fucking spectrum, bro.
Like let me tell you something, that character,
yeah.
I'll put it this way.
Yeah.
There is no media I enjoy watching more than me. There's no writer I enjoy reading more than me. You know what I mean?
God
so like
damn.
so in that regard, like I'm deeply self-absorbed.
God
I
damn.
love this character. Like I love, I can be honest about it because I'm experimenting with this arrangement of atoms and molecules. It's like, I don't who am I sugarcoating this for? Mm-hmm. Who am I sugarcoating this for? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before I get into my last question, I want to touch on something because I really want to give you the space to clarify this. So one of the first things I said about you when I introduced you is that when you were in the military, you practiced law and you defended sexual assault victims.
Yes.
You have a beautiful relationship in connection with your mother. Clearly, you know what I mean? You will move mountains for your younger sisters. I mean, your mother was a guiding light. She was the intellectual. She was the nucleus.
Yeah.
Of your
definitely
of your home.
Really well said.
So, people call you a sex pest.
A sex pest?
A sex pest.
Okay.
I want to understand because, dude, I mean, you clearly give a shit about women. You were defending the people who had their innocence taken away from them. I mean, you clearly give a shit about them. You spoke earlier about like being an advocate for the progression of women in society. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so how do we get from that to sex pest? I mean, where the fuck is the, like, where's the misunderstanding? I mean, just kind of clarify that for me. Like, what
I mean, I don't know. I don't know who is saying that or what experience is for it. I can tell you my best guess is that I'm a prolific Lothario, right? Like, I am very open about the fact that I don't believe in monogamy, and to the extent that I did, I wouldn't be able to practice it. That I have set up myself for eternal bachelorhood because I will continue to try to court and seduce anything I think is attractive. I mean, you know, the funny thing is like, listen, more power to people who are able to bind with one person, and that's where they want to express their, you know, sexual energy or whatnot. I really, like, I am going to be, like, I flirt with every woman. You know, and, like, I don't think that means that I am incapable of recognizing their humanity or their capacity for intellectual achievement, their overall posture in society, or, like, in my company, or, you know, whatever. I do think that there is a lot about the female experience in society that is unfortunately denigrated by people who perceive them to be objects first. I don't perceive women to be objects first, but there's a lot about women I really like. And, you know, so I think that you know, probably it may have been that I don't know, that I've, like, overstepped my welcome in someone's inbox. I don't know. I mean, I really do try at all times to be like, for example, if you're going to approach a woman, say, you know, be self-deprecating about it. Are you at all open in me trying to sell myself for a date? Like, would you be willing to endure yet another man hitting on you this evening? I try to be charming and funny about it, but I'm very open about the fact that I will approach a woman I fancy, because that to me is why I get out of bed in the morning. Like, that's my favorite thing about the world, is women to whom I'm attracted. Like, you know, and there's no short supply of them. And, like, that is a cool thing about when you are single and you don't have to lie to anyone, and you say up front, hey, I need you to understand, I'm not going to be monogamous. I'm not seeking a relationship. You're dealing with a problematic Peter Pan syndrome fuckboy. If you're nonetheless still interested, we're gonna have a great time together, you know? And so, I can't speak to that, but I'm sure those are people who have either heard about how I prolifically hit on everything, or who may have been the recipient of my efforts, however clumsy they may have been, to court and seduce. You know, whatever. To your point about, you know, misconduct, I think the real thing is that men specifically need to understand how threatening their interests are. You know, you're talking about, in the full expression of that, putting a part of your body into someone else's body. And if you just think about it, well, I mean, I don't know how you roll, but that's not something I would ever want.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? That's just not, to me, when you think about it, it's like none of that sounds particularly appealing.
Right.
So, you know, you really have to understand what type of energy, you know, women are dealing with on a daily basis. You know, they walk into a world where there are going to be people who are exerting their singular desires on them. And I would say that to the extent that I have been successful in the dating scene, it has far less to do with my overall talent and more how bad other men are. You know what I mean? Like, the degree of rudeness or entitlement. I am always very grateful to anyone who gives me their time and attention. And I'm always very, you know, I at least try to take great pains to express the fact that, like, hey, If you're not interested in what I'm putting down, no hard feelings. That makes you like the thousands of other women before you, you know? And to the ones that say yes and are willing to give me their attention, you know, I really do honor that, you know, because that's what to me makes life exciting.
Fair enough. And my last question to you, brother, on the wrap up here. When your story is over, what do you hope people understand about the man behind the Sheriff of Lark Street?
I don't have a hope one way or another because either way it'll be inauthentic. You know, in a perfect world, I'd be forgotten the day I died. Unfortunately, you know, if I'm not forgotten, people will be using their depiction of my story for their own political goals. And because I don't control that, I am afraid by it. I like the idea that my mom's obituary has had the impact. People have reached out and said, I want to be a vegetarian because of what I read about your mom. I literally had that. And that's great. But that's my depiction of my mom. You know, and other people might use her messaging for their own sinister deeds. You know, like, trust me, because I mentioned him before, if Jesus Christ returned to the planet, he'd be like, well, I probably shouldn't have come at all. You know? The way his message has been corrupted is unconscionable. And so, you know, the best thing you can hope for is that you've got enough of a small insular group of people who respect what you do when you're alive, who will show up to your funeral, and the day after will get back to their own lives and find a new follower or a new person to follow. You know what I mean? The best privilege is that you can be forgotten once you're not around, because otherwise your message will be corrupted.
Damn. That's what's up, brother. Please, for anybody who doesn't know, please plug in your socials, any events you have coming up, anything, please.
Sheriff of Lark Street, New Scotland Spirits, but honestly, don't go out of your way to find it. My content will inevitably find you.
Yes, it will. Yes, you're goddamn right. Yo, listen, people, Jesse fucking Summers, man, it's been a pleasure.
Dude, thanks so much for giving me your time, man.
Absolutely.
This was great. Thank you.
Fucking right, yeah, man. And that is a wrap. God damn, that's beautiful.